Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Yes, people, welcome back to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And not only are we back for another fun-filled episode, but most importantly, my computer is back! If you guys don't recall, last week I had to go and send my entire computer to the shop because it actually did have a major problem. And I did actually know what the problem is. Like, they finally assessed the issue, and as it turns out, it's actually related to the hard drive, like the main source of the computer, like kind of the, well, not necessarily the motherboard, not necessarily the brains, but the power of it all. Apparently, my computer was just too weak to handle the power that modern technology or what the modern softwares would need in order to just keep running in general. So it really was just a hard drive problem. In fact, actually, let me show you something. If you guys can watch this, I actually hold in my hands right here the actual hard drive, or at least the old hard drive that I had on my computer. And keep in mind, like, I know a lot of people might say that usually this kind of problem would occur mainly because the computer would be old and stuff like that. This is not really the case with my computer because the computer that I have right now is only about 3 years old. And because of that, it is more of an unusual problem, but then again, you gotta keep in mind that I always work for hours, literally every day on my computer, so I've been using it so much that this thing has practically burned out. But the big thing, though, is that I am so glad to have my computer back, even though it was kind of a miracle that I did manage to pull out an episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast the way that it pretty much was. Even though I didn't have an intro and an outro, I still had plenty of the main essentials, including bringing in a special guest star with the diva from Musical Hell. Once again, I would like to thank her so much for being such a trooper and coming in on board even when I was in such a massive emergency like that. But still, at least I am glad that I've managed to put things back to normal and that we can keep the ball rolling with this podcast. So, with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall. And yeah, that's another thing right now is that, of course, if you are watching this, then as you can see, the chat wall is also back. So with that said, chat wall, I would like to know, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Okay, let's see now. In the chat, it looks like people are prepared. Yes, that is great. People are hyped up. That's wonderful to see. That's wonderful to hear. So now, with that said, let us now go and get things started. And with our first story, what we have over here is possibly the biggest trailer of the week. The one that everybody has been talking about. And funny enough, people have been talking about this for a while. Oh, and by the way, I just want to give a special shout out and a special thanks to Daniel is the Fazquez for the extra subscription there. Thank you so much, Daniel. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. Yes, this has been a trailer that a lot of people have been discussing. In fact, a few weeks ago, it was leaked and it actually did get people hyped up. But we didn't really see all that much. However, this week, all that changed when we got a clear view of what this trailer actually looks like and how this movie could potentially be. So with that said and done, let me go and get my headphones to prepare myself. Let's go ahead and check out the trailer for the upcoming live-action animation hybrid of Tom and Jerry.
After a lifetime of being the world's most famous enemies,
you can count on me like one.
Oh, hold on a second. Oh, there we go.
2, 3,
Tom and Jerry are about to start over.
'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do. Oh yeah.
in the big city.
Ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on a goose.
This hotel has been host to 4 presidents, 3 popes, 2 kings, and we're about to host the wedding of the century.
Do you think you're qualified to take on this position?
I shine under pressure, like a diamond. Or Rihanna.
One other thing. We have a mouse problem.
With the what now?
Yeah.
I'll catch it, sir.
Everybody gonna shine. I was born like this, don't even gotta try.
Oh, wow, this is so detailed. We could hire an exterminator, or we can leverage millions of years of predatory evolution.
Got the baddest lie.
If a picture of this mouse is tweeted out to Instabook Face or TikTok, we will be ruined.
No, sir, that's not gonna happen. That rodent is toast.
I will not let this hotel be ruined by a cat and a mouse.
He's toying with us.
I think I might have just pulled this off.
Really?
We blowing up the whole thing. Everybody in the bouncy house going bouncy, bouncy now. Bouncy now.
And that was the trailer for the upcoming Tom and Jerry movie, which I believe they have it scheduled for March 2021. Here, let me go and, there we go. Let's put it up where the title is. And as I stated before, this is technically not the first time that people have actually seen this trailer in particular. Because technically, this did actually get leaked a couple of weeks ago, but not necessarily in the same way that we saw it right here. Because I remember back when it did get leaked, I don't know if it was like a few weeks or if we could officially state that it was like about a month ago or something. But I remember like that leak did actually go viral until Warner Brothers went in and shut it all down due to copyright and stuff like that, where it's not supposed to be something that people would immediately should see until they would have their say. Like technically, it should only be now that we should be seeing this thing, but most people already have. But the thing is, with that trailer in particular, it was kind of interesting because we didn't fully see what we saw like what we just did. Because it was one of those leaks where it was actually someone recording it in front of the big screen, where they went into a movie theater, which in this case it was in France. Some guy decided to go into the movie theater, pick up either his phone or something, and record what was on screen. And when you would record something that's on the big screen, usually the quality is definitely not as clear. Not to mention that it was pretty obvious that the person was seating like way, way back. So even at that, like the amount that we actually saw in the trailer was actually relatively small, like probably around somewhere that's like this big, and that's it. And just like I said before, it was actually recorded in France, so the trailer that people saw in the leak was actually all in French. But even at that, even if it was in French, it was barely even audible because, again, it was recorded. And not only can you not see well, but also you cannot hear well when it's something that is actually recorded in the theaters, especially with what happened in that leak in France. And yet, even though it was barely audible, even though it was barely watchable, from what people kind of saw, I remember there was just massive praise across the board. People were just freaking out of the technology and especially with the animation that they were presenting of how they were blending Tom and Jerry in the live action environment. Almost in a Roger Rabbit kind of style where they really are staying true to the classic designs like how they were back in the 1940s. And people were just giving massive praise to it. And yet, even though that the hype was definitely on when the leak was out, that's not the same kind of reaction that we got when this trailer suddenly appeared. And it's kind of funny because I believe because of that, people pretty much had a case of beer goggles for a movie trailer. Not just for a movie trailer, people had beer goggles for a Tom and Jerry movie. Where it's pretty much like, it's like if you're at the bar that you're pretty much completely drunk and then you saw someone really attractive. But then suddenly the next day when you're all sobered up, you see that same person and, oh boy, they certainly do not look like the same way you thought they did back when you were drunk. It's the beer goggle experience without the beer. And essentially, with this one, now that we know what the story seems like it's going to be, now that we know what the animation is going to be, oh boy, this doesn't look all that great. I think I might as well go and start things off with the story, because I'm just gonna say right now, honestly, yeah, this is a big screen Tom and Jerry movie, but it doesn't necessarily feel all that different from the direct-to-DVD Tom and Jerry movies that we have been getting lately. Because the whole thing, the biggest problem with all of those movies is that Tom and Jerry are not necessarily the stars of the feature. It's not really about them. They just so happen to be there while there is a movie going on. Which in this case, it's actually about this hotel in which the star of this is Chloe Grace Moretz, where like she's in charge of handling this 5-star hotel in New York City, and there's this big royal wedding happening, and she has to make sure that everything is perfect. Now, technically, you could argue that Tom and Jerry does play a significant role in this, more so than before. You know, more so than back in the direct-to-DVD sequels, because her biggest obstacle to face is the fact that Jerry is in there, and they want to make sure that there are no mice in the hotel to freak anyone out, and so Chloe Grace Moretz would go and hire Tom to get rid of Jerry. But even at that, though, again, it's not really about Tom and Jerry. It's more about her, or at least this is what we are seeing with this trailer, where like somehow it's not really a Tom and Jerry movie, it's a movie that just so happens to have Tom and Jerry. Yes, they'll definitely highlight a lot of the crazy shenanigans that Tom and Jerry would get into, and plus the fact that it does seem like they would do a lot of throwbacks. Like a great example, of course, like if you are going to do something Tom and Jerry related, then you know that there has to be a moment where you have to pay homage to one of the most popular Tom and Jerry cartoons, The Cat Concerto. So yes, we do have a scene where Tom and Jerry are on the piano, and in a way they're kind of duking it out where Tom plays the piano, but Jerry would be there to mess things up. But still though, like yeah, we're going to have those cartoony moments, but again, it's the same tiresome format that we have been getting before. And speaking of tiresome formats, like one thing that honestly is a bit of a surprise, but it shouldn't be a surprise, is the fact that as it is a animation live-action hybrid geared towards families, of course, they gotta do the stereotype of the location. If there is one place where you would find cartoon characters end up surrounded in a live-action environment, you know there is one place they love to go, and that is New York! He's placed to make out to break through. I don't know the lyrics. But you get what I mean, though. Yes, it's another one of these movies that's freaking set in New York City, because of freaking course. Where else would they freaking be? Oh boy. So yeah, like we do have to deal with one of those features, and even though it is mainly set in a hotel, I'm sure there are going to be moments where you're going to see a little bit of a tour around New York City. You know, like like you're going to have those times where like Tom and Jerry would go and visit places like like of course you're going to get shots of the Statue of Liberty, checking out like the Empire State Building, or maybe like now with the new with the new Freedom Tower, like they'll probably check that out too, or you're of course, like these types of movies cannot be complete without these cartoon characters walking around Times Square. You gotta have those surrounded by the lights and the billboards and stuff like that. Oh boy, yeah, it's just gonna be one of those movies, of course. But then you also got the animation of it all. The animation specifically of how Tom and Jerry looks. And honestly, for me, this has to be the most conflicting part of the whole series, of this whole trailer, or at least of the whole movie with what we are seeing with this trailer. Yes, I am mostly negative towards the story, and because of that, I don't think the movie is really going to be much, but honestly, when it comes to the animation, I feel completely split. Because on one hand, I'm going to say this right now, the animation is very well done. I think the animation here does look great in certain parts, and I do believe it is well crafted, and I gotta tip my hat to the animators who have worked on this to really perfectly recreate the classic 1940s style with Tom and Jerry to really get into their crazy antics. And from there, I could definitely see where like a lot of the comedy could actually work out, mainly because of the visuals, because as you guys probably know, Tom and Jerry is a more animation-oriented cartoon that really does take advantage of the slapstick, cartoony style comedy. So I'm sure there are probably, like, I do have the confidence in the animators that they will supply at least some decent laughs throughout the film, and I could definitely see some shots where it really isn't that bad. But then again, there is also that other part that makes it conflicting, where it is the technology of it that I have a problem with. Even though it is very well made, and I do admire the craftsmanship that the animators do put in, there's also another part where I feel like what they're trying to do feels a little bit too ambitious. And that is the factor that this is 3D trying to be 2D. Because technically, this still counts as a computer animated feature. This is still a CG animated movie where the cartoon characters are all CG. And in this case here, it looks like they decided to do, like, not just Tom and Jerry, but apparently all the animals are going to be computer animated, where we actually started out, like, somewhere in the beginning where we got, like, yeah, like one of the opening shots of New York City, we actually got some cartoon pigeons where it looks like they're going to be rapping. And then in the wedding scene, apparently we're also going to get some CG elephants as well. So it looks like we are going to be in a world where all the animals are actually CG and they're all cartoons. But the thing that they are trying to accomplish is that even though this is computer animated, they're trying to make this look like 2D animation. They want to try to make the animals look like they're cel-shaded, 2D, hand-drawn, animated. And even though the animation itself, like the character animation, definitely looks great, the technology of it just cannot make it, honestly. It doesn't look 2D. Like, there are some parts that it's obvious that the characters are in 3D. Like, the best way to describe it is that this is obviously cel-shaded. Like one of the chase scenes with Tom and Jerry, like, you could tell this is obviously computer animated. Like, yeah, when you see Tom on the skateboard and you see Jerry flying with a drone, like, you could definitely tell the characters are all computer animated. You could tell that this is completely CG. and in a way it kind of makes it look weird. Now, this is not necessarily Warner Brothers' fault here. Like, honestly, I do understand that technically trying to make 3D look completely like 2D is an extremely difficult task, but not necessarily impossible. It's honestly very rare that we would actually see 3D animation look completely like 2D. Like, in a way, I would even say that technically with Into the Spider-Verse, technically some could argue that that's one movie where it is computer animated and it tries to look 2D, but then again, I would give Spider-Verse a pass because it is trying to go with its own unique style, and it absolutely works in its own right. But for those rare ones that actually do work, like a perfect example would actually be Disney's Paperman. You might remember the animated short that appeared before Wreck-It Ralph. That actually looks amazing, and they managed to nail the look of making computer animation look like 2D. Here, however, it just doesn't. And it also brings in another issue with the visuals, like not just with the animation, but with the overall look of Tom and Jerry. And this is something that I feel like the more you would think about it, the more it really doesn't make sense. Because let me go and ask you, what's the point of this, of being a CG animation, a CG live action hybrid? What's the point of the hybrid of all this? Why not make this a fully computer animated film, you know, to make everything consistent and to have it, you know, to have everything be in that same style that all the animals and Tom and Jerry have? Why not go and do that? I feel like that's kind of a decision that really feels like it doesn't necessarily make sense, or maybe it's for the sake of saving money on the budget because it is more cheaper to just, or more cheap to film live action bits and just have a few parts in CGI. Like, maybe it's for budgetary reasons. But still, in terms of the narrative, in terms of, like, the movie itself, in terms of the creative decisions, the hybrid element just feels like it doesn't necessarily make sense. And in a way, yeah, like, even though it's great that Tom and Jerry, they do look like their same cartoony selves instead of, like, what they would do back 10 years ago with movies like The Smurfs or Yogi Bear, when they're desperately trying to make them look realistic at the same time, and, like, it gives out that uncanny look to it. Like, yeah, even though it is kind of a great decision to see the classic cartoons be and look like the classic cartoons, they really do look out of place when compared to like the live action actors. Like, you see, there is like this weird massive contrast that, at least in the trailer, they don't seem to really explain all that much, and it kind of looks weird. In a way, the best way to describe it is that Tom and Jerry looks like a game mod. It looks like someone decided to mod some Tom and Jerry designs, or they decided to take some character models of Tom and Jerry from a different game and decided to put them in Grand Theft Auto, for example. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you would go and look it up on YouTube, that there probably is someone who actually decided to make some kind of GTA mod where the main characters are actually Tom and Jerry. That's what it essentially looks like. It just feels completely out of place to see these cartoon characters interact with these live actors. There's just something here that doesn't necessarily make sense. And again, the more I think about it, the more this hybrid decision really just, there's something about it that doesn't feel like it makes sense. It raises more questions than it would with answers, because it feels like it's trying to be the same world that we live in right now, but it just so happens that now all the animals are just cartoon characters, and that they would have to dealing with stuff like this is kind of commonplace. So I don't know, it's just like, even with the animation, although, like, again, it is very well done, I just feel like there's just something about this that feels it feels out of place, and what they're trying to do with the 2D look, it doesn't necessarily nail it every time, and there are some moments where it can feel more like a video game, more so than it does a live action environment, or like, it doesn't feel genuine that these characters belong in this world. Probably a great example. I remember when, like, back when this trailer was released, some people have brought up the notion that, like, the style that they were going with is a little bit similar to the 2000 Rocky and Bullwinkle movie with Robert De Niro. And honestly, yeah, I could see that kind of comparison. Although I will give Tom and Jerry credit that they, like, what they've done with the animation is way better than what they did with Rocky and Bullwinkle, but it does give out a bit of that style. So honestly, I would say that I'm a bit more pessimistic with this trailer, where, like, I can see the craftsmanship where it is well done with the animation, but when it comes to the rest, it feels like a very generic CG hybrid movie based on a classic cartoon. Like, this is gonna be like, it may look better than some of those films, but this is gonna be no better than any of, like, the Alvin and the Chipmunks films, or the Smurfs, or Yogi Bear, or any of that kind of crap. It just feels relatively the same, where, like, you got all these characters in New York City trying to do their shenanigans, but at the same time, they gotta try to find a way to desperately implement some kind of movie and have human actors be involved with their pointless plot lines. So, yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not really looking forward to this. Like, maybe it could, like, at best, maybe it can deliver some some decent laughs with the animation, but I'm not going to be expecting a whole lot out of this. So, again, if you guys are curious to check out how this movie is going to be, keep in mind that it's going to be coming out in March of 2021. But rather, if Warner Brothers is going to release this in theaters, or if they're just going to release this in HBO Max, honestly, I don't know. That is going to be something that we will have to wait and see. Okay, so with that said, let's go into the chat wall right now, and I want to know what you all think about the Tom and Jerry movie. What do you think about this trailer? Do you think this trailer, do you disagree with me and think that this trailer is actually pretty awesome? Are you guys disappointed by this trailer? Do you have issues with it? Let me know what you all think. Okay. Let's see. The slapstick here in the trailer looks great to me. I heavily watched Tom and Jerry back when I was a kid, much more than the Looney Tunes. Granted, I love both, but Tom and Jerry slapstick are all top-notch. The live-action stuff looks fine, I guess, but I'm getting that Rocky and Bullwinkle vibe out of this movie. I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing. Hopefully, this movie is going to be okay at... Ooh, excuse me. Hopefully this movie is going to be okay at best. I just want to watch it just for the animation. That's it. Guess it's going to be better than that. Yeah. Okay, I get what you mean. Okay, so let's see now. Finally, a Tom and Jerry movie that doesn't suck, or a shoddy made crossover. Hashtag Tom and Jerry crossover editorial, please. I was scared after Tom and Jerry Willy Wonka figuring out what they were doing, but after seeing this trailer, I'm impressed myself. But like you said, well, we'll see what happens. I'm happy this doesn't go the chipmunk direction. Then again, it also gives me a Rocky and Bullwinkle movie vibes. Okay, so it wasn't me, and I'm surprised to see there are plenty of people pretty optimistic about this. Did anyone ask for this? Well, I'm not against having a new Tom and Jerry movie, but not like this. I will give it credit. It feels more like a Tom and Jerry movie than the 90s films, and the animation looks pretty good in my opinion. The story just feels like it's going to be in the direction of the Transformers movies, where it focuses on the humans more than the title characters, and the characters do feel annoying, so overall, I'm not interested and I'll pass. Also, I'm getting some serious Rocky and Bullwinkle vibes. Yep. Yeah, there's another one. Yeah, like, honestly, I'm on the same page as you, actually. I do agree with you, where I'm not against having a new Tom and Jerry movie, but not like this. And honestly, the same goes with me. I would love to see a Tom and Jerry movie, but I want to see one done right. I want to see a good Tom and Jerry movie, not crap like this. I don't really have that much confidence in this one. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Sweet merciful Jesus, doesn't that look like a masterpiece? And by the way, I'm being sarcastic on that note. Now, the visuals do look pretty good, for the most part, but the way they're trying to do it doesn't really work. Some could say Spider-Verse is an example of this, but Spider-Verse kind of went through a more comic book style. I already said that, but okay. Also, I feel like the movie is kind of heading into a Fat Albert and live-action Smurfs route, where the characters head into the big city and blend in with the modern times. Well, yeah, I mean, you already got a clue that they are going to go in that route, especially when you do have, like, Jerry flying with a drone and stuff. So, yeah, you can bet that modern technology will probably play a role in many of the slapstick moments with Tom and Jerry. Let's see now. This certainly looks better than the 1992 film. The animation looks really nice, and it's cool that they do really, they do bend reality itself, like that scene with Jerry moving his hole. Though with the director of the first two Fantastic Four movies directing this, I can understand why the story seems pretty bad, though I do love the Batman reference. Yeah, well, I mean, it is Warner Brothers, and as you could tell, Warner Brothers is not necessarily afraid to poke fun of itself, especially with the animation department. Oh boy. Trust me, the animation department had been on a roll when it comes to poking fun of themselves, especially with the DC movies. It's not just enough that they also had Teen Titans Go to the movies making fun of the DCEU, but I recently saw a clip of the Animaniacs reboot where apparently they also made fun of Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, where apparently there's this woman giving a bunch of tourists a tour of the Warner Brothers lot, and she's just driving around going like, and there on your right you see the sound stage where they filmed Batman, ooh, versus Superman, oh! Trust me, that's a real thing. You can actually go and check it out on Animaniacs. Let's see, I'll read a couple more and then we're going to jump into the next one. I was skeptical at first, but now I can see myself kind of enjoying this. The story isn't anything spectacular and the jokes aren't too great, but the CG is top-notch and the slapstick is phenomenal. I may not be a huge Tom and Jerry fan, but I guess I could see it, but all of the problems with the film may be erased if they replace Tom's iconic scream with the Mike Wazowski scream. Oh my god, okay, that's honestly impossible, but, well, obviously due to copyright reasons, but I can totally imagine there needs to be, okay, honestly, for any, like, editors who like to make video memes and stuff like that, I want to give you a bit of a homework. I want to see this happen. I want to see people edit clips of Tom and Jerry and replace Tom's signature yell with Mike Wazowski's scream. That would be phenomenal. I am surprised no one has actually done this kind of idea. Like, that is actually genius right there. I want to see that happen. Okay, anyways, I'll go and read one more comment before we jump into the next story. Let's see now. This trailer is bad. Outside of liking the animation that reminds me of Rocky and Bullwinkle, the overall presentation looks bad regarding with the story and especially taking place in New York City, which has been done before with CG live-action hybrid movies. Overall, the trailer shows me so far suggests that it will be another generic hybrid film and another Warner Animation Group's weaker films. Also, do I really need to see Jerry's butt on the printer? I find it very unnecessary to include it. Oh, right. Yeah, that is true. I'm surprised not many people, like... Yeah, there it is. Yeah, this pic right here. Like, do we really need a suggestive pose of just Jerry showing off his butt? It's like... you know, honestly, it makes me scared to think about it, but... You know, the sad reality is that, you know... oh my god, already I see in the freaking chat wall, like, some people are already writing, it's like Jerry is dummy thick. Jerry is dummy thick, and the clap from his ass cheeks awakens Tom. Oh, but you know the sad reality is that, you know, this kind of image right here is doing it for someone. The thickness of Jerry is probably like, you know, it has aroused people in ways that they never knew they could for a cartoon character like Jerry. Okay, so for the next story that we have over here, we're going to transition from one CG hybrid movie to another. But this time around, we don't have a trailer for this one. This has only been announced. And it looks like it's going to be heading towards an interesting and probably unique territory where the franchise has never been before. They've had plenty of movies, they've had plenty of movies in the past, but never one that actually stars the title character. And who I'm talking about, of course, is going to be the Pink Panther. Yes, MGM has officially announced that they are going to be making a live-action CG hybrid of the Pink Panther. And they've already got several people involved when it comes to the head honchos that will be working on this movie, both in terms of the producers and the executives, and even in terms of the creatives that will lead the project. The writer that they got for this is going to be Chris Bremner, in which Chris has already been credited to be the writer of this year's Bad Boys for Life. And on top of that, he is currently writing for movies such as National Treasure 3 for Disney, which I am surprised that Disney is still working on doing another National Treasure movie, and also the the Paramount Hasbro film Mask. But the real interesting thing of all this is not necessarily the writer or any of the producers. It is actually the director that they got involved, who is none other than Jeff Fowler, in which you may recall Jeff Fowler is the director of one of the biggest movies of 2020, Sonic the Hedgehog. So you can pretty much guarantee that Jeff Fowler is more than qualified to work on another CG hybrid movie, but this time with the Pink Panther. The list of producers that they do have involved, by the way, do include Lawrence and Walter Mirisch? I believe it's Mirisch, which... excuse me. By the way, I just want to add that these producers here, that also includes the executive producers. So yes, you got Lawrence and Walter Mirisch. You got Julie Andrews Edwards. And then you got the guys, of course, from Rideback, from the company Rideback. So that includes Ryan Halprin, Dan Lin, and Jonathan Irich. We also got a quote here coming from Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi, who is both the chairman and president, respectfully, of MGM Film Group. As they state here, popular to the world over, the legacy of the iconic Pink Panther has endured for more than 50 years and continues to be discovered by new generations. We are so happy to come together with Jeff, Chris, Larry, Julie, Dan, Jonathan, Walter, and Ryan to bring one of MGM's most well-loved franchises back to the big screen in a way audiences have never seen before. And for those of you who don't necessarily know, yes, it is true that when it comes to the Pink Panther, he actually does have quite a legacy in terms of animation, and this doesn't just include the openings to the live-action film starring Inspector Clouseau. Rather, he would be played by Peter Sellers, or with a couple of the modern ones with Steve Martin. Let me read this little excerpt here about a quick summary about the Pink Panther's history in animation. Just a little short summary of this. That same year, which is 1964 when the first movie was released, the first theatrical cartoon was produced, based on the character in the film's main title sequence. The cartoons were made by DePatie Freeling Enterprises. The Pink Think won the Oscar for Best Animated Short in 1964, and the Pink Panther was shown on movie screens until the 1970s. The Pink Panther show started its television run in 1969 and ran through 1994. Pink Panther cartoons are still shown on TV around the world. So that's pretty much the big thing with the Pink Panther, and honestly, I do feel like it is a pretty interesting route that they are going with the Pink Panther, because in the past, the most that people actually do know, or when they would first think about the Pink Panther, is regarding those live-action movies, because in the film, technically, the Pink Panther is a giant diamond, which, like in the remake and in the first movie, I believe, the case is that this giant pink diamond has been stolen, and it's up to the bumbling French detective, Inspector Clouseau, to go and try to solve the case. And that's pretty much the first major thing that we would think of when it comes to the Pink Panther, is just the detective aspect. We don't literally think about a Pink Panther. Yes, we are familiar with the iconography of the Pink Panther, but the interesting thing about it is that while everyone do recognize the Pink Panther as this cartoon Pink Panther, we don't really know him as a cartoon character per se, or at least not many people recognize the Pink Panther as a legitimate cartoon. Like, if you would ask who is the Pink Panther, not many people would necessarily know how to answer it. They just know the iconography of, like, they know what he looks like, but they don't really know how the character is in the cartoons. And it's interesting that not many people would discuss about the cartoons because, as I said before, the Pink Panther himself does have quite a history in animation, especially with the fact that, like, there have been several notable animators who did work with the Pink Panther, or really did help bring the character to life. Some of the of course, you may notice that the studio de Patty Freeling really played a very significant part in bringing the Pink Panther into the world of animation, and especially with the Oscar that they mentioned that he won with the cartoon The Pink Think, which was actually directed by Friz Freleng. So not only is Freleng well known with the Looney Tunes characters, but he was also the man responsible for really bringing the Pink Panther into the world of animation. And even before doing this podcast, I did check out the cartoon, The Pink Think. And basically, the best way that I can describe the Pink Panther as a cartoon character, or at least how he is in The Pink Think, is that, in a way, think of the Pink Panther like he's imagine a cool Bugs Bunny. Like, you know, I'm sure we all know the theme of the Pink Panther, right? You know, the one that's like, diddy, 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 diddy. Like, you know that smooth jazz thing. And essentially, like, imagine if that song is a cartoon character, and it's essentially, that is essentially the Pink Panther. Like, he is cool, he is slick, you know, he never goes over the top or anything, and like I said before, he does share a lot of the same qualities as Bugs Bunny, where he would always find a way to outsmart his opponents and to get out of a sticky situation. And in the cartoon, The Pink Think specifically, like, he is up against this guy who's trying to paint his house blue, where the Pink Panther decided, okay, let's go mess with this guy and we're gonna paint everything pink. Like, that was his big goal in there. In a way, it's like if you take that little sequence in Disney's Sleeping Beauty, where you got Flora versus Merryweather, and they're duking each other out to make the dress either pink or blue. That is, like, imagine if you take that and you turn that into a Friz Freleng cartoon. That's what you would get with The Pink Think. And I will admit, it is, like, if you are an animation enthusiast, if you are an animation fan, I do recommend go checking it out, because not only is it significant in animation history, especially when it did win an Oscar for Best Animated Short, but, you know, it is actually pretty enjoyable. I wouldn't necessarily say as laugh-out-loud funny as much as, like, the Looney Tunes cartoons, but, you know, it is still enjoyable, it is still cute, it is still fun, it's still worth checking out. But yes, essentially, this is all to say that, in a way, he's like a smoother like, the best way to describe the Pink Panther as a cartoon character is a smoother version of Bugs Bunny. And honestly, when it comes to this reboot, what we are pretty much talking about in the first place, the fact that they are rebooting the Pink Panther as a live-action CG hybrid, honestly, the more I think about it, the more that I feel like I am pretty on board with this. I don't know how the movie itself is going to be, but I think this is actually a pretty creative and unique way of actually rebooting the Pink Panther, because, as I said before, in the past, all they have done is just trying to make this live-action comedy with this bumbling detective trying to solve this near-impossible case. That's usually the thing they would do with the Pink Panther movies, but this time around, it's interesting to see that now they are actually making a movie that's based more on the character, that, like, now people are going to be fully introduced to the Pink Panther, and they will recognize his personality, they will know who he is, and that he is much more than just a mascot, you know? It's much more than just literally being pink and just dancing around to the theme song, rather it be through the animation of DePatie Freeling, or if it is from the animation of Richard Williams, because that's another very noteworthy animator who actually did work on the Pink Panther. Even though it is just the cartoon intros of the movies, at least they did play a significant part in playing those roles. So honestly, for me, I feel like this would be something that I would be on board on it. I'm not expecting this to be great, because I do have a little bit of doubts of, like, some of the people who are working on it, especially the fact that this is another freaking movie in which Dan Lin and Jonathan Irich are also on board to go and produce this, which, honestly, those are two names that, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but honestly, I'm starting to be sick and tired of seeing those names pop up when it comes to movies that could potentially be produced, because it feels like these two names are pretty much everywhere, and these guys are pretty much rebooting everything and trying to make another movie, which honestly, I'm at the point where I have doubts that they would make anything great out of them. Like, maybe they'll be, like, decent at best, but I'm not expecting anything that would really be worth my time. And especially, like, the fact that before, like, I have my serious doubts with the way that they're planning to try to reboot, like, many Disney rides, you know, like, turn them into movies, rather it be, like, the Haunted Mansion or Space Mountain. But now, like, they're also going to be on board with the Pink Panther. It's just, I don't know, guys. It's just, I have my doubts on this. I honestly do, especially with these guys. And also with Jeff Fowler, I do find it to be an interesting choice. And honestly, like, yeah, I think visually, I think, like, he'll handle it very well. I think this is going to be a great looking film, but as a movie itself, I think that's going to be something we will have to wait and see. Like, I mean, like, Sonic the Hedgehog was definitely a lot of fun. It is a pretty enjoyable movie, but as a movie in itself, it's, like, okay. It's a generic, like, it does feel bland, it does feel generic, but I mean, it's decent. It does bring in a lot of fun, but a lot of the enjoyment does come from the animation and, of course, Jim Carrey's performance. So, like in this case here, they better find a way to bring in some really enjoyable characters, or really bring in some enjoyable actors to really do justice, like, to provide something more than just the Pink Panther. So, in a way, I guess, like, we'll have to wait and see on that, but overall, I'm more cautiously optimistic. I feel like it's a great idea to reboot the Pink Panther in a completely unique way, and that it does highlight the cartoon character of the Pink Panther. I think that's actually pretty cool. But with the people involved, that's gonna be something that, like, we'll have to wait and see, and I shouldn't hype myself up too much, and that this isn't going to come out, I feel like this might not come out as something, like, amazing per se, but maybe it could come out as something that could be decently entertainment. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, overall, like, who knows? Maybe this could work out, maybe this won't, but hey, at least, honestly, the comeback of the Pink Panther cartoon character, then I feel like it could be a good welcome. Alright, so with that said, I'd like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, what do you all think about this Pink Panther reboot being a live-action CG hybrid that's going to highlight the Pink Panther character? Is this something that you guys would feel like you would be excited about? Would you be curious to check it out? Do you have any doubts about this? Let me know what you all think. Alright, so, let's see. I'm very interested to see how this turns out. While I'm not too familiar with the Pink Panther, even though I have heard of him, I could see how this could have potential and help introduce audiences to the Pink Panther and learn who he is. I do have faith in Jeff Fowler since I really enjoyed the Sonic movie. Also, I think it would be hilarious if when the trailer drops, people will go crazy over the Pink Panther's design and it looks like a CGI abomination and then they change the design like they did with Sonic. Nah. Jeff learned his lesson. Like, I think, honestly, it really, like, I think, like, with Sonic the Hedgehog, it really was a massive learning experience for everyone who worked on the movie, especially for Jeff. And the way that he and the Sonic team have handled it, I think, like, now he knows what to do in terms of bringing cartoon characters into a live-action environment. Like, if Jeff Fowler knows how to do it with a cartoon character like Sonic the Hedgehog in a way that audiences can really appreciate, I think, like, now he knows, like, how to do it with the Pink Panther. Let's see now. Oh boy, I'm so split on this. While the movie about Pink Panther sounds great, and the director to me was the right choice, however, it could be worse. Maybe the design will be the old Sonic design, and he could have an actor who just doesn't care, or a script... Oh, excuse me. Alright, there we go. Or a script that could be like those other cartoon CG movies. You know, the ones that try so hard to be cool with the kids. I need a trailer for this to see which part of me, is right. Well, okay. How about this? We'll give you a deal. Like, I think, honestly, for that, it all depends on where is the Pink Panther. Like, it all depends on the Pink Panther's location. Because I'm gonna say right now, if they decide to put the Pink Panther in New York City, I think this movie is immediately screwed. Like, honestly, we're already seeing the mistake of Tom and Jerry. Like, honestly, if the Pink Panther sets his foot in frickin' Times Square or anything like that, this movie is doomed. It is done for. So first things first, we gotta make sure the Pink Panther stays as far away as possible from New York City. Like, hopefully that will calm your nerves, if that could be the case. Alright, anyways, let's see what else we got here. I've always been a fan of the Pink Panther, both the original animated series and the movies, especially being the fourth film, being The Return of the Pink Panther, which that one has the late Richard Williams doing the opening titles. This idea might be interesting by actually doing a 3D hybrid of the Panther instead of a traditional robbery of the Pink Panther diamond. But hey, if this ends up being bad, I will still always go back to The Return of the Pink Panther, as always, being the best. Alright, so that's fair enough, that's fair. Let's see. I'll be entirely honest with you guys. I have no nostalgic connection to the Pink Panther. The most I know of the franchise is just the theme song, and that's it. But this does sound a little intriguing, and I did enjoy Sonic the Hedgehog, so I'll keep my eye on it for now. I will say, though, that I just hope that they don't have to do the visuals twice, just like Fowler did in his last film, or at the very least, I just hope they don't have Steve Martin return. Oh, are you sure, guys? You don't want Steve Martin to come back? You don't want Steve Martin to come in and do his hamburger bit? You know, I would like a hamburger. You don't want the hamburger? Oh, man, yeah, I do agree. That movie is freaking cringy as F, but, oh, boy. But you know, the funny thing is that I'm sure with your comment right there are a lot of people out there that are on the same page, and yet the theme song is really going to be something that will be a major selling point. Like, I remember back last year, back when the animated Addams Family reboot was released, and a big part of its success is actually because of the iconography of the main theme song. And like a lot of people, a lot of analysts actually state that a major part of its success is because people recognize the theme song. So honestly, it would not surprise me if this Pink Panther movie does become as much of a massive hit as the Addams Family movie, just because it has that theme song, and it's going to be playing, and you know that they will be playing like maybe just a little bit in the opening, but maybe save that for the end where you're going to have a major title sequence where like the Pink Panther does a massive song and dance number and a little bit of a cartoon thing where like he outsmarts like maybe Clouseau or anything like that, like to the theme song. So you know having that theme song alone is going to play a major role in the movie, especially with its marketing. Let's see, what else do we got here? I'm just conflicted about this. On one hand, I do trust did I read you before? Okay, no. Okay, you're completely different. On one hand, I do trust Jeff Fowler to make a good movie, but I'm not sure the kind of animation used for Sonic will work for the Pink Panther. I'm also reminded of the Steve Martin movies, which were decent at best, so I think this is going to be one of those things that I'm going to need to see a trailer before making any judgment. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like that is completely fair. Let's see, what else do we got here? No, I think I'll just read one more before we jump into the next one. Let's see. Okay, I'll go here. It's great to see a Pink Panther movie about the Pink Panther rather than the Inspector cartoon. Just hope there is a drunk guy who thinks that he is seeing Pink Panthers when he is drunk. That would be so funny. Yeah, you never know with what kind of jokes they would do. So honestly, we'll just have to go and wait and see with how this movie will go. I mean, it's just been announced, but hey, maybe it could turn out for the best. But I'm excited to see the cartoon character come back and actually have people recognize him as a legitimate cartoon character. Okay, so the next story that we have over here is going to be something that I find to be very fascinating because this is actually an update regarding one of my older stories that I have covered in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Now, you may remember about the controversial decision about Apple TV Plus being the only place where you could find the Charlie Brown holiday specials, which includes It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and a Charlie Brown Christmas. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you must go and get a subscription to Apple TV Plus in order to check those specials out. What Apple decided to do is that for a very limited time, like for a few days for each of those specials, they would go and present them for free for both subscribers and non-subscribers as well. And yet, with that decision, people were still outraged about it. They were still massively upset about that decision, mainly because of the fact that it broke a more than 50-year tradition of having Charlie Brown appear on television, whether it be on stations like ABC or CBS. It was something that generations, literally generations, have been doing for so long, and yet now that tradition has been completely broken because of modern technology and the evolution of entertainment now gearing a lot more towards streaming service. But then, this week, there was one announcement that did happen in which the public broadcasting service decided to step in and respond to the people who are angry that the tradition is broken, and decided to do something that will keep a bit of that tradition alive. Not all of it, but some. And what I'm talking about, of course, is regarding the Peanuts holiday specials coming to PBS. Yes, Apple has officially announced that they are going to be taking the 2 of the 3 legendary holiday specials of Charlie Brown, which includes a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving and a Charlie Brown Christmas, and that not only will they be presenting them on Apple TV Plus for free for a limited time, but also that they will be airing them on PBS commercial free. And that's the part where it's going to be a little bit more different than usual, where there aren't going to be any commercials when you're going to be watching it on PBS or even on Apple TV Plus if you decide to go and check it out there as well. To give you a little bit of a summary of what has been going on so far. Like, even though, like, I already described it a little bit, there's also a little section here in this article on Variety where it does sum it up a little bit better, where it states, Apple in 2018 established ties to Charles Schulz's time-honored Peanuts empire, which has its origins in a daily comic strip about characters like Lucy, Linus, and Peppermint Patty. The pact initially called for Apple to develop original series, specials, and shorts, including one featuring iconic canine Snoopy as an astronaut that would teach kids about science, technology, and math. But the company's bid to snap up the holiday specials raised eyebrows as it placed the shows behind a paywall of sorts, even though Apple has promised to make them available for free viewing for a limited period of time. Apple's streaming video service costs $4.99 per month and requires the subscribers to have a broadband connection in the home. So that was before. But now it seems like Apple decided, you know what? For those people who want to see it on TV, they will go and put it on PBS. And while it may be a little bit too late right now for It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, for the other ones, they will go and actually air it on both PBS and PBS Kids, where a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving is actually going to be airing on November 22nd at 7:30 p.m., which, by the way, as I am recording this, that's literally going to be tomorrow. And then you also got a Charlie Brown Christmas, in which that one will be airing on December 13th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. And by the way, just a little bit of a reminder that if you still want to go and check out the holiday specials on Apple, they are showing the Thanksgiving one for free between November 25th and the 27th, while Charlie Brown Christmas will be for free between December 11th and December 13th. So that's pretty much the big situation that they are going on right now with Charlie Brown and the holiday specials, and that Apple decided they're going to go and share it with PBS. And I think this pretty much shows the power of traditions, and that Apple decided that yes, they would indeed go and do something when it comes to the response to the backlash that they have received over that major choice to move all the specials and make them exclusive to one little area, instead of just sharing it on television where people are used to, again, like on ABC and on CBS. They decided they're gonna go and, you know what I mean. They decided that, like, they're just gonna keep it for themselves and really want to emphasize that Peanuts is, like, the entertainment of Peanuts, their exclusive home is with Apple. And from there, the reactions that people have, like, a lot of them, like, yeah, they don't care that much. But then, like, when you got people upset about it, like, they really were upset. Because, again, this doesn't just deal with traditions. This deals with holiday traditions. And when it comes to holiday traditions, people are a lot more connected to the things that they have been used to doing for many years. And like, especially when it comes to Charlie Brown, this has been like decades since they have been doing it. Like, they've been doing this since like the beginnings of television, that they would keep airing it on TV for people to enjoy again and again and again. Now, yeah, it's a piece of chicken that's just stuck in my throat. Sorry about that. But anyways, as I was saying, back when I talked about this before, I didn't really think all that much about it because, number one, this really does signify that we really are in a new age of entertainment where, like, streaming services are really the major way to go as more people are kind of giving up on cable. But then again, there's also the other argument that I did have where technically it shouldn't really matter the fact that you would have, you know, that you would have Peanuts, that you would have, like, you know, it doesn't matter where it is, because technically if you're really that desperate to watch it whenever you want, or like you don't have to worry about where you can find it, just buy it on physical media. Like, honestly, physical media is the best way to go if you're really in that need of watching any of the Charlie Brown holiday specials. And plus the fact that you wouldn't necessarily have commercials. But again, it's the traditional aspect that people want to keep. That they want to see stuff like a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, or It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, or a Charlie Brown Christmas, and they want to they want to see it in a specific way and serve it in a specific way. That's what they really, really want. And from there, they know very well that, like, you know, messing with these holiday traditions, you know, that could really give them a bad image, because, like, traditions is one thing, but holiday traditions, like, that can be more personal, especially when, like, those holidays can be just around the corner. Like, I know that there are people right now that are prepping themselves up to start their Christmas traditions or their holiday traditions with whatever they want to go and celebrate. So from there, Apple decided, okay, you know what, like, we would have to do something about it. And honestly, I feel like airing it on PBS, I do feel like that is probably the best decision out of all this. Like, even more so, like, I know the tradition is usually with ABC or with CBS, but honestly, with PBS, I feel like that is actually the best way to go, because, like, now, that really does signify that anyone could just go and watch it. I know that technically a lot of people could argue that everybody has PBS, everybody has ABC, NBC, CBS, and all that kind of stuff. But really, when it comes to PBS specifically, that is something that you know for sure everybody has. Like, not just, you know, not just like everybody that you would know, but also with poorer people as well, people who live more in not just in developing countries, but also people who are in a lower class in society, that, you know, that you could say that are in the brink of homelessness, but not really, or that, you know, they're starting to live on their own and stuff like that. They can't necessarily afford to have any of the major luxuries, like having a whole bunch of streaming services, like having Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max all at the same time and stuff. Like, they can't necessarily afford that. What they can do instead is just have cable, and at least they know that they could have something like PBS. And honestly, I do feel like I do feel like it is very nice of Apple actually going with PBS, so that, like, there is that option that everyone can have, even if they cannot afford to have access to Apple. Because then again, like, even though, yes, Apple would go and show the Peanuts specials for free for a limited time, they even still state that even at that, it still requires to have a broadband connection at home. And the reality is that not everybody has a broadband connection at home. Some people just have to rely on cable. And so, at least they could still have a bit of that tradition where they can go and watch Charlie Brown on something like PBS. There isn't necessarily a whole lot that I could go into, that I could describe, but honestly, overall, I just feel like it is a bit of a nice decision that they would go and choose PBS to go and re-air it on television. And again, it really does highlight the power of traditions and the power of holiday traditions, that it's not necessarily something that you really want to go and mess with. Now, this is not 100% the same traditions that you would have for the past, like, more than 50 years, because like, rather it be on PBS or on Apple, they're not going to have any of the commercials, but still, at least you can have something in order to enjoy the holiday specials the way you would want it. Rather it be through streaming services like Apple, rather it be through television with PBS, or rather it be like with your physical media, if you have it either on DVD or Blu-ray. At least, like, now you got all the options in the world, and you could pick one in terms of how you want to enjoy your Peanuts content. Okay, so with that said, I'd like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, how do you feel about Apple bringing the Peanuts holiday specials onto PBS? Is it something that you feel like is great? Is it something that you really want? Like, are you gonna go and watch the Peanut holiday specials on PBS, or is it something that doesn't necessarily matter because like you can check it out on Apple or you can check it out on DVD or Blu-ray? Let me know what you all think. Okay. Let's see now. All hail our Lord and Savior Elmo Christ. Yes, because it's the power of Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers that brought Peanuts onto PBS. Okay, anyways, I'm happy that the Peanut specials are still airing on television this year. Considering how iconic the Peanut specials are and how these are traditions for many people and people would watch it every year. And of course, that is why physical media is beneficial to people, so you can just watch these specials whenever you want during the holidays. That is definitely true. And that you don't necessarily need a broadband in order to have, or like you don't need some kind of internet connection in order to check it out. That's another beauty of physical media. Let's see now. You know, the funny thing is that you do actually get the best of both worlds. You don't, like, it's like with the PBS thing that you don't necessarily need a broadband connection, but at the same time, it's just like Apple where you can just watch it whenever you want. So that's the real beauty of physical media. All right, anyways, where do we got here? Like I said in the chat wall, I don't care for this. In fact, I'm still a little mad, mostly because I do not have PBS on my Hulu TV. Also, since you said the digital buy, I already looked and you can't buy it. Well, in America or for my Amazon account. It's kind of a shame that it will not air on ABC anymore. I watched it on ABC since 2009, so that's 10 years. But I could still get it on DVD, so if I wanted to watch it, I could just get the DVD box set and with all the other Peanut specials as well. Again, guys, as you can tell, if nothing else, if you can't do television, if you can't do Apple, you got the DVD or Blu-ray. So you got those options. And I believe it's also available for 4K as well. Like, I think they also did that, too. Let's see now. I've actually never seen a Charlie Brown Christmas. Crazy, I know. So I'm glad I can finally check it out without having to pay for another streaming service. I'm glad they're actually sticking to it, saying that I brought up a few weeks back. I think that was Reject Humanity, Become Monkey. Yes. And this is going to be a defining must-watch for me. Also, when you say that Apple TV Plus is the only place for Peanuts content these days, I could just imagine Disney Plus with the Peanuts movie being all like, "Am I a joke to you?" Yeah, that's the thing. Like, honestly, I think Apple has a very special name for that Peanuts movie. They call that the peanut that got away. That's essentially what it is. Mainly because of its ties with Blue Sky. That's how it ended up in the hands of Disney and not on Apple. You know, I'm sure I'm trying to think of an example for some reason. It's like there's somehow always that one little property that got away. No, it's, pretty much like the best way to describe it is that Peanuts, for like how the Peanuts movie for Apple is pretty much like the Spider-Man film rights for Disney. Like, Disney owns everything Spider-Man except for one of the most important things, which is the movie rights that is in the hands of Sony. I knew there was like some kind of connection. I just needed a bit of time to think. Let's see now what else we got here. I was disappointed when Peanuts is not going to air on television anymore, but I'm actually glad that this time they are coming back on TV, but on a different channel. So we don't know how people would react to Peanuts being on PBS and PBS Kids. I already know that Peanuts was back on primetime television because I saw a video that was made by ValskyMub94 and felt relieved. Plus, I'm actually marathoning Peanut specials, but only on holidays. Okay, so that's interesting. Let's see. Oh, yep, here's another DVD example. I don't really care that much because I already have the specials on DVD. But I do like this new deal because now anyone can watch them without spending lots of money on streaming services. Alright, so that's nice. I'll go and read one more comment before we jump in the next story. Let's see. It's true, I saw this good news myself. Charlie Brown on PBS. Need some information though. Has this happened before, or is this the first of both Snoopy and PBS? Cause it's a first to me as far as I'm concerned. Yes, honestly, I do believe this is a first time because this article even did mention that the only channels that the Charlie Brown holiday specials were on are just ABC and CBS. I don't think, there doesn't seem to be a mention before that it would be on either like on NBC or even on Fox or anything like that. It was just ABC and CBS for the past more than 50 years, and now PBS managed to get a bit of their hands on it. Not all of it, of course, because it's already too late for It's a Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, but at least they did have the other specials, and that they could continue the tradition from there. Okay, so the next story that I have over here, we are going to have an interesting discussion regarding a business that a lot of people have missed, but we do understand that it's for the best to see its downfall, at least for now. And I'm talking about movie theaters. And right now, there seems to be a brand new deal that's being done with a movie theater chain and a major studio, where this time around, it seems like it's going to be a little bit better for movie theaters this time around. And what I am going to be talking about is going to be regarding the deal with Universal and Cinemark. Yes, Universal has made a brand new deal with Cinemark in terms of the future of movie distribution. And this deal is pretty much the exact same thing like what Universal has done with AMC. And if you don't know what that deal was that I believe it was a few months ago where Universal and AMC, they decided to make this deal where that first and foremost, they would release their movies exclusively in theaters. However, that exclusivity is going to be pretty short, or at least shorter than it was before. In the past, or before this pandemic, what movie studios would do is that they would release their movies exclusively in theaters, and then only a few months later, they would be allowed to go and release it in other venues, rather it be on physical media or on digital media, like on video on demand. So they would go and just spread that around, but the big thing is that they would have to wait a few months. But the deal that Universal and AMC has done is that now the gap between exclusive in theaters and releasing it on video on demand has significantly shortened to 17 days, or that is estimately 3 weekends, because usually they have actually stated before that the first 3 weekends is when a movie would go and make the most revenue during its box office run, or the first 3 months is when the movie would make the most money that it could gather. Afterwards would be just like a little bit here and there, and that's it. However, with this deal right over here with Universal and Cinemark, that's when they would go and make something similar, but a bit different at the same time. They still decided to do that same deal where Universal would release their movies exclusively in theaters for the first 17 days, and then after those 17 days are up, they are allowed to go and release it on video on demand. However, it does come with a major catch, and that is only regarding the successful movies. Now let me go and read you from my source here again on Variety, in which the new deal states, Cinemark has agreed to slightly different conditions. Under their terms, any movie that earns more than $50 million in its opening weekend or in opening weekend ticket sales has to stay in theaters for at least 31 days or 5 weekends. All other titles can be made available to rent on digital platforms after just 17 days. So that's pretty much the big catch of all this, is that for any movie they would go and have that 17 window where it's just exclusive in theaters. But if the movie is a massive hit, then they pretty much have to wait literally a whole month before they would even consider putting it out in distribution, or in distribution. They would put it out in digital. I got a couple of quotes that I would like to read you here as well. First and foremost, coming from the chairman of Universal Film Entertainment Group, Donna Langley, in which she states, Universal's century-long partnership with exhibition is rooted in the theatrical experience, and we are more committed than ever for audience to experience our movies on the big screen. Mark Zorandi, who is the CEO of Cinemark, by the way, and the team at Cinemark have been outstanding partners, and Peter Levinson, the vice chairman and chief distribution officer of Universal Film Entertainment Group, has done a remarkable job on the studio's behalf in making deals that give us the confidence to release our movies in the marketplace, keep the content pipeline moving, and provide consumers with the optionality that they are looking for. We also got another quote here, this time coming from Mark Zorandi, in which he states, we are extremely pleased to further enhance our strong partnership with Universal as we evolve the exclusive theatrical window. We believe a more dynamic theatrical window whereby movie theaters continue to provide an event-size launching platform for films that maximize box office and bolsters the success of subsequent distribution channels. It's in the shared best interest of studios, exhibitors, and most importantly, moviegoers. So that seems to be the big deal that they have right now. Oh, actually, Here's actually another interesting thing. We also got another part that I just want to go and quickly mention, that technically, even though AMC and Cinemark are happy with the deals that they have done, not all movie chains are actually happy. In which it also says here, Mookie Griedinger? I don't know, that's kind of a weird name. Mookie Griedinger, the CEO of Regal's parent company Cineworld, has been vocally opposed to such drastic changes to the theatrical window. In a recent interview with Variety before Cinemark's deal was announced, Griedinger said that he wouldn't entirely rule out a similar agreement, but attested that 17 days is too aggressive and too short. So this is pretty much where we are right now, where it seems that Universal seems like they are starting to try to shape up what could be the future of distribution. Now, technically, this is only regarding their company. This is only regarding with how Universal wants to distribute their movies. I mean, technically, other studios like Warner Brothers or Sony or Paramount or Disney, they don't necessarily have to follow those rules, but they can if they want to, thanks to the idea of this deal. And it is actually pretty interesting, and I mean, like, I guess with how the pandemic has really been hitting movie theaters hard to the point that it really did leave them vulnerable, and that because of this, like, normally movie theaters would say no, but now they are at the point where they don't have any options anymore, so I guess, like, they kind of have no choice. Like, honestly, with this one, I do have to say that when it comes to this deal that Universal has done with Cinemark, the update that they have done where now successful movies have to be exclusively in theaters much longer than just regular movies, I think this is honestly something that is a lot more fair to movie theaters. I think, like, they do actually have a little bit more of a leverage, because technically this only focuses on the bigger and more successful movies. Like, this is going to be aiming for, like, the big ones that people are highly anticipated for, rather it be, like, the superhero movies, for example, or, like, the future Star Wars films, or the future Avatar films, or like, any of the big anticipated franchise movies that they would have. They would have a lot more of an opportunity to really capitalize on the success of those films instead of just, like, any of the smaller films as well that don't necessarily matter, or that they would just pick up too much room. I could definitely see where they would have much more of a benefit, because technically it only applies to movies that would make more than $50 million on its opening weekend. And from there, it gives them more of a chance that they could have the opportunity to really just capitalize up on the success of their of those movies in particular. Because I think we can pretty much all agree at this point that if there is a movie that would make more than $50 million on its opening weekend, unless it has a stupidly huge budget, then at that point you know that it is a bit of a surefire hit. You know that it's going to be massively successful, and not just the studios, but even the movie theaters could go and capitalize on it. So in a way, there is honestly something here that I do find is actually pretty fair. And if there are going to be any movies that would be released that do end up making less than 50 million, then at that point it wouldn't necessarily matter. Then like that would be at the time when movie theaters would be kind of comfortable with movie theaters, with movie studios, where they would go and release them digitally because they wouldn't really make that much money in the first place. But when it comes to the movies that do make the big bucks, they know those are the ones that are going to be more important and more important to go and keep. So honestly, I could definitely see that be more beneficial and more fair for movie theaters in the future. And I do think it is actually a pretty smart decision, and that it will keep the longevity of movie theaters as time would go on, and of course after that time when the virus is going to be over and that there is going to be a vaccine that will be available, which considering the recent news that we have heard lately regarding companies like Pfizer apparently being very close to actually getting that legendary vaccine, you never know if it could actually be soon. But so far we are actually seeing some optimistic signs that maybe the end of the pandemic could actually be near. You never know. But anyways, going back to this, I will say, though, that there is going to be a bit of a massive catch when it comes to this deal. And it's not necessarily any shady thing that something like Universal has done in order to, like, secretly have it gain advantage towards them. The only catch to this is that I know for a fact that when it comes to this deal, it's not going to take effect until, like, many months or even, like, in years. Maybe sometime, like the soonest would probably be by the end of 2021 or sometime in 2022. And I'm not saying this because there's some kind of rule that it's going to take effect. I'm saying this because it's going to be a massively long time until we actually see a movie that's going to make more than $50 million at the box office. That is something you know that's going to take a very long time, not just waiting until the pandemic is over, but wait until people can have the confidence to go back to the movie theaters and enjoy the movie-going experience again. Because I know that, like, I've often joked around in the past regarding the fact, like, yeah, it's not a safe time to go into the movie theaters. You would be completely insane and pretty stupid if you really desperately want to go and see a movie on the big screen right now. But the thing is like, I understand the argument that when it comes to cinemas, they do their best in order to maintain a clean and safe environment, that they try to make sure that everything is all sanitized, that everything is properly clean and frequently cleaned, and they want to make sure, like, everyone wears a mask and everyone social distances. I do understand that, and the thing is, I will say right now, for me, it's not that I don't trust movie theaters that they would keep things safe. I just don't trust other people that would go to the theaters to make sure if they would properly follow the rules. Because you know that there are going to be some douchebags that are going to go into the theater. They don't care about distancing. They don't care about keeping 6 feet apart. And they would certainly not care about wearing masks. And they're just going to be walking around thinking like they follow their own rules. And you never know if they might actually carry it and they're just going to be coughing around for no reason. That's the part that I don't trust. That's the reason why I think it's kind of a stupid idea to go into the theaters. Again, it's not that I don't trust the movie theaters themselves. It's the other people who go to the movie theaters that I don't trust if they would have the virus or not, or that if they would be carrying around some kind of virus and that they would end up spreading it to someone else. That's the big thing about this whole situation. And again, as I stated before, like going back into this, it really is going to be a massively long time, not just waiting until this pandemic is officially over and that everyone can have the vaccine, but there is also that factor that when it comes to when it comes to cinemas, it's going to take some time for people to really trust cinemas in order to go back to the big screen in order to watch a movie again. Because even if the pandemic is over, even if we immediately get the vaccine, it's still going to take a long time for us to adjust that we don't necessarily need to follow any of the CDC guidelines. We don't have, like, it's going to take some time for us to adjust, to remind ourselves that we don't have to always wear a mask to go outside, that we wouldn't have to always practice social distancing, that we don't have to always use a hand sanitizer whenever we would go and touch something. Like, that is going to take some time as well. And again, that's going to be the major reason why it's going to take some time for people to trust cinemas again. And it's going to take some time to really see the numbers really go up. So honestly, that's why I would state that it would probably take a few years before we would even see a movie make more than $50 million at the box office in the first place, in order for this kind of special rule that Universal and Cinemark has done in order to actually take effect. But again, honestly, I do see this actually really work out in the long run. Like maybe sometime in 2024 or in 2025, that this deal is going to be greatly beneficial for both, for all three, for the studios, for the cinemas, and especially for the moviegoers like you and I. I could definitely see where it's going to be beneficial all across the board, where rather it be a movie is not that successful, or if a movie is successful, and that like in a shorter time span, we would actually have the option to either watch a movie on the big screen, or that we would go and just check it out either on a video on demand service or on a streaming service. So, yeah, honestly, that's just essentially my thoughts on that. And with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you guys now, how do you feel about this new deal that Universal has with Cinemark? Do you think this is a better deal than they had before with AMC? Do you think they should have done a better deal before? Like, are you for this? Are you against this? Let me know what you all think. Okay, let's see now. This deal is for the best. Considering how bad the pandemic is going right now, movie theater chains really have no choice to make deals with movie studios to help stay alive. So overall, I can see this be beneficial to Cinemark. I actually have a Cinemark theater near me. All I could see this affect is a lot of the big films in the future, like any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, or something like Jurassic World 3 in 2022. Exactly. This is going to be an... Oh, excuse me. Oh, boy. This came out big. But anyways, as I was saying, this deal, like, the big thing is that this deal only affects the this really only affects the blockbusters. It really does affect, like, the big franchise movies, or any of, like, the big animated films that would be coming soon, like, from either, like, Disney, Pixar, or Illumination. You know, the kind of, the kind of animation studios, that know how to make billion-dollar animated features. It would only affect them, and at that point, it does become a little bit fair. I mean, the only downside is that I can see maybe there might be some people that would be confused about this. Like, there are going to be some people that would say, well, how come this movie came out soon on video on demand, but not this one? And then, of course, you would have the issue of what if there's, like, some kind of movie in which its opening weekend would be, like, $49.8 million at the box office. Then at that point, what the fridge are you going to do from there? I'm sure there are going to be some things that they'll have to, that they'll have to work out through trial and error, but I think this is something that could ultimately work out. Let's see what else we got here. I did not expect Cinemark to make a similar deal with Universal, but they did anyway, leaving Cineworld the only movie theater chain left to make a similar deal with Universal. I don't know if theaters will still be around this year with some in some states like Michigan, Oregon, and California is closing back again with its cases are rising, but I hope it's not too late. Also, with Croods 2 coming next week, is your theater closed or open? Because mine in North Carolina is still open enough to play Croods 2. Yeah, honestly, I'm just going to state right now that I think in a few days, I would have to go and make a statement about my plans on what to do with the Croods 2, or at least in terms of my review of the Croods 2, because I'm just going to say right now, my theaters are closed, and it looks like it's going to stay closed, so I don't think I got any options to watch the Croods 2, unless Universal decides to pull off some kind of miracle exclusively to Canada, and they would pull off something similar to like what Paramount did with Sponge on the Run, and they decide to do something unique for Canada so that more people can go and check it out. Other than that, though, I don't think there would really be much else that I would have in terms of options. Worst case scenario would be that I would have to wait until the Croods 2 would come out until it would be on video on demand. But honestly, for now, I'm just going to wait these past few days on what they're going to do. And unless Universal announces something for Canada with the Croods 2, I don't think I really got much else. I don't think I got much options. I'm just going to state that right now. Okay. Let's see. Wait, what the fridge? I see someone in the chat that's like, oh yeah, my state, your state in Canada is having a second wave. Okay, well, number one, we don't have states, we have provinces. And number two, it's not just my province, it's the whole freaking country that's having, we're having a second wave. And now it's becoming a massive emergency, especially in places like Alberta, Montana, like, honestly, this is really the curse that I've had since watching Meet the Robinsons. I don't know what that movie has done to me, but ever since they made that stupid joke of calling Canada North Montana, I always mistake Manitoba with Montana for some reason. But anyways, Alberta, Montana, and Ontario, they're having a massive second wave, worse than anyone else, or at least worse than anyone else in Canada. And right now, they have even gone into some serious lockdowns. So I just want to go and emphasize that. Let's see, what else do we got now? I'm honestly just glad that Universal isn't banned at movie theaters anymore, so I'll take what I can get. I'm a little glad we're moving beyond the Trolls World Tour effect on cinemas, and we can actually get back to the cinematic experience. So if a Universal movie that particularly interests me hits, I will be for sure to check it out within those 17 days. Now I just need to experience Grug Moment 2, Electric Grugaloo. Oh my god, that is actually a beautiful title there. Holy crap, dude, JF. I gotta admit, sometimes, man, your comments, there are moments that you're just a wordsmith, dude. I just need to state that right now. You could be quite a wordsmith with these things, and especially with the Electric Grugaloo. That should have been the title of freaking Croods 2: A New Age, seriously. Okay, let's see what else we got here now. Well, the way I see it, blockbusters will be the type of movies in theaters, art house movies will just go straight to streaming service, and a blockbuster movie or more effort in the movie experience, like exclusive to IMAX or Dolby Atmos, in order to get people in theaters, to get the experience they can't at home. Yeah, that there definitely is true. Oh, did I say Montana? Oh, son of a fish. Did I say Montana again? Ah, fudge nabbit. Again, I know, it's stupid of me to do so, but honestly, it's the curse of watching freaking it's that stupid Meet the Robinsons joke. I blame it on that. I blame that stupid freaking joke of North Montana. I need to find a way to disconnect Canada with Montana, and I need to remind myself it's freaking Manitoba. Okay, it's Manitoba. Okay, anyways, I'll read one more comment before we go into the final story now. I pretty much live in Michigan myself, but I can tell you that I wouldn't be surprised if MJR or Sperry's Movie House would do the same thing. I just hope they continue to wait until the time is right to make their comeback. Yeah, exactly. Like, we're still, like, it's still gonna be a while until we can actually go back, until we can safely feel like we could go back to the movies. But for now, we'll just wait and see. And for now, it looks like they're just trying to make deals, and we'll see what happens with them. Alright, so now with that said, it is now time that we are going to go into the grand finale, and we actually do have a bit of a similar story here. Now, technically, this does have to do with movie distribution, but we are going to be looking into another company, and it's quite fascinating that we are seeing how different studios are going to be handling how they are going to be distributing their movies, both during and after the pandemic. We are already seeing Universal so far making deals with different movie chains so that they could go and release their movies in theaters first and then just wait a little bit and then they could put it out on video on demand. Then you would have Warner Brothers, whom this week they actually announced that they are going to release Wonder Woman 1984 at the same time both in theaters and on HBO Max, which it looks like Warner Brothers is not fully giving up on the movie theater experience, but at the same time, they are still delivering content onto HBO Max that was meant to be for movie theaters. Like, not just with Wonder Woman 1984, but also with Robert Zemeckis' The Witches as well, that they put out as well. And then you also got Sony Pictures, which they decided they're just delaying their movies. They're just gonna continuously push them back. In fact, as I'm recording this, we have yet to even get a new release date for Sony Animations Connected. And then we got Disney. And Disney looks like they're gonna do something very interesting, and they are leaning a lot more towards Disney Plus. In fact, expect a lot of movies to be coming out on Disney Plus. Now, there is no confirmation, but according to Deadline, it looks like Disney is highly considering taking many of their big movies, and instead of putting them in theaters, they're just gonna go and release them on on Disney Plus instead. And more specifically, the movies that I am talking about are going to be many of the Disney live-action remakes. These would include Cruella, which is the Cruella de Vil movie starring Emma Stone. Then you also got Pinocchio, which is going to be directed by Robert Zemeckis and will star Tom Hanks. And finally, we also got Peter Pan and Wendy. So those three in particular are heavily considered to move to Disney Plus instead of theaters, despite having all these big names attached as directors and as the stars of them as well. Now, the big reason to why, I'll go and read from my source here on Deadline. It states, the studio is looking at every option, and everything is under consideration and contingency planning, as Disney makes plans to lean in heavily on its direct-to-consumer initiative and towards continuing to build the juggernaut Disney Plus, whose subscriber numbers brighten up the last quarter that would have otherwise have been bleak because of the wallop that theme parks and live entertainment took from the COVID pandemic. Now, I just want to go and immediately state right now, though, that it is only with those movies in particular that they are considering to move to Disney+. It doesn't necessarily mean that now all the Disney live-action movies are going to be moving to Disney+, nor does it reflect upon any of the other major movies that they have coming soon. Like, one thing I am going to state right now is that this is something that is confirmed, by the way, that there is no way that Disney is moving any of their major Marvel movies onto Disney+. So stuff like Black Widow, they are still making sure that that is going to be released in theaters and in theaters only, not on Disney+ until like much later after its theatrical release. It even, I believe it even stated right here, actually. There is actually a quote where it even states that, like, hell no, they ain't doing it. Ah, yes, it's like somewhere right over here. Yeah, it's actually the last paragraph in this article. Sources said that Disney will likely lean heavily into series generated from Marvel, Lucasfilms, and other silos, but at this point, it is keeping some of its plump titles from releases when the theatrical market recovers. The Marvel film Black Widow with Scarlett Johansson is not being contemplated for a streaming bow, Deadline hears. So, really, like, it's mostly some. Well, so the big thing is that right now, even though they can't really do much with movies, they know that when it comes to the series from Marvel and Lucasfilm, that they are putting that on Disney+. But when it comes to the movies, hell no, they ain't gonna be doing that. Those are for movie theaters and movie theaters only. You're not going to see them suddenly have a change of mind and put that as a premiere on Disney+. The only way that it would do so is if the pandemic would continue to be worse in 2021. But also, with that said, I also want to mention about the Disney animated films as well, like the ones from Disney Animation Studios and from Pixar. And so far, there is no official word about what they are going to be doing with them. Considering that we do have the announcement that Pixar's Soul is going to be moving to Disney+, there is no confirmation, but considering that Soul is going to be on Disney+, maybe they are going to do that for the time being at the very least. But yeah, it seems, however, that in terms of the long run, even like if the pandemic would be over soon, it looks like they still are going to go and take many of these Disney live-action remakes and they're going to put them onto Disney Plus instead. And for that decision, I do find it fascinating, which is why I want to go and talk about this here. Because the big thing that I want to go and emphasize is that I did take some thought about like why they are really doing this, even with the explanation that they did state in here. And I know that a lot of people would look at this and think that this is a decision mainly because of the fact that it's caused by the pandemic and Disney pretty much has no choice but to move many of their movies onto Disney Plus instead of forever delaying them until like another year or two. Like a lot of people would think like maybe it's the pandemic that would cause that. I would actually say not really. I would actually say it's more because of Disney Plus, more so than it actually is because of the pandemic. Because the one good thing that the pandemic has done for Disney, despite the fact that the pandemic has really screwed over the live-action movies and the live-action series, where like it makes it pretty difficult in order to go and produce them more, but especially the theme parks, where now Disney is literally losing billions of dollars because all the measurements that they have to do in order to make the Disney park safer, not to mention how some of them have remained closed, but on top of that, on top of that, yeah, essentially, like, those are the major reasons, like, even though with all this, Disney has been losing money, and yet the pandemic has actually been doing a massive favor for Disney Plus, where after just 1 year since its opening, since the streaming service was released back in, I believe, November 12th of last year, Disney has gathered up a significant amount of subscribers. In fact, they even stated here that Disney has actually nearly 74 million subscribers overall. And that, you know, and I know that technically this isn't a number that could still, like, be on the same levels as Netflix. Like even with Netflix, they got more than double than that. But still, in terms as a Netflix competitor, when competing against, like, the other streaming services like HBO Max and Amazon and all that kind of stuff, that is still extremely strong, especially just on its first year alone. So I can imagine that things can definitely go up from there. And again, the pandemic really was a massive favor for them because it helps people give the content what they want to see in the meantime while they would be stuck at home, while they have no choice but to stay at home and they really don't have any other options, like they can't really go outside in order to do some activities. So they would have to stay and watch some of the Disney movies, some of their favorite classics, some of their cult classics, or some of their favorites. You know, like, at least they got that option and they could just check it out in there. But on top of that as well, they've also pretty much upped the quality and upped the standards of the stuff that they would already go and release. I mean, it's not like, not only would they go and provide like one of the most popular streaming shows right now, The Mandalorian, but also because of the pandemic, they also took movies such as Hamilton, the Mulan remake, and Pixar's Soul, and decided to go and put them onto Disney Plus, which that also played a significant factor in the massive growth. That also played a significant factor in why we are seeing nearly 74 million subscribers onto Disney Plus. But here is the massive catch, though, is that with these subscribers, they don't always stay. You know that there are going to be those subscribers that they want to stay, like, they'll watch Disney Plus for a little bit, and then they would just jump out. Especially for those people who are only interested in some specific things in there. And that's exactly the case with The Mandalorian, for example. And I wouldn't be surprised if that could also be the case when WandaVision is going to be coming out soon. Because the thing with The Mandalorian, like, that was especially the case when Disney Plus actually began, because it started out with a lot of people subscribing to Disney Plus because they want to see The Mandalorian. But then, when The Mandalorian was finished, there was a massive fall of subscribers because the people who are only interested in Mandalorian, they just wanted The Mandalorian. So all they did was just pay for a couple of months, like maybe 2 or 3 months, to just check out all the episodes. And then once, like, the season was over, once they got all their content, they decided to go and leave. They didn't need any more Mandalorian anymore. So from there, the big goal that Disney wants to do is that they want to stop people from unsubscribing to Disney Plus because they want to keep them in. They want to supply more content to make them feel like there's more stuff coming in that would be worth their stay. Now, I know that technically, like with The Mandalorian, a lot of those subscribers did come back because we are in the middle of Season 2 right now. But then again, it wouldn't be surprising that after Season 2 is over, that, like, we're going to see another dip in subscribers for Disney Plus. So the big goal for Disney is that right now, considering that in 2020, they have provided some major significant content that a lot of people would be very interested in, especially like with Hamilton, with more Mandalorian, with the Mulan remake, and with Pixar's Soul. They want to try to find ways to develop more content to keep people's interest. And because of what happened in 2020, they really, they really have upped their standards, which is why they have to take some of their Disney live action remakes and they would have to go and put it onto Disney Plus. And the reason why they would have to go with these live action remakes is that it is very interesting, where there is actually a bit of a theme that I do notice with these remakes in particular, and that is actually regarding the choice of movies. And the thing is that you do notice a little bit of a connection when it comes to Cruella or Pinocchio and Peter Pan and Wendy. It's that they are all based on animated films that were produced by Walt Disney himself. And let's be real here, those remakes that are actually based on the Walt Disney classics don't actually make as much money as the remakes of the Disney Renaissance films. Because so far, the most popular ones that have made over $1 billion are Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King. And I wouldn't be surprised if The Little Mermaid would be one of those as well, which is why you do not see The Little Mermaid on this list, because they know that it's going to be a massive juggernaut in theaters, and they know that it is it is as much of a legendary classic as those other three I mentioned. So there's no way they're going to go and put that just as a Disney Plus exclusive, and they are going to put that in theaters because they know people would want to go see that on the big screen for sure, because there's a lot of people nowadays who are very nostalgic for The Little Mermaid. But when it comes to the Walt Disney classics, that can honestly be debatable. Like, I understand that technically there are some that are very successful. Stuff like Maleficent, for example, or even The Jungle Book. But those are, again, those are massive exceptions. Like, those have managed to pull off their own way and pull off their own circumstances in terms of how they ended up becoming very successful. Where you got Maleficent, that's just because it mainly focuses on one of the most popular Disney villains. Or when it comes to, what was it? When it comes to The Jungle Book, for example, that's just because it turned out to be a really good movie and still stands to this day where many call it one of, if not the best, Disney live-action remake. So from there, like, they know that there is still a bit of that chance that these movies, like with Cruella or Pinocchio and Peter Pan and Wendy, they wouldn't necessarily make as much. And, like, the reality is that there is a chance that, like, they could be successful at the box office, but maybe not all that much. They would only make a little bit of money where, like, only some people may notice, like the 2016 Pete's Dragon, for example, or Christopher Robin, or the worst case scenario, and probably another factor that might have influenced this decision, is Tim Burton's Dumbo. That is a movie that is based on a Walt Disney classic, and yet that turned out to be a box office bomb, and it further proves that technically you cannot, like, technically, you can't just take a Disney animated classic and just turn that into a live-action movie and expect that to be a hit. Sometimes they could actually flop. And that's why, and I'm sure that could actually be a key influence in why we are seeing these movies being moved to Disney Plus, or possibly being moved to Disney Plus. So overall, my feelings on this, I do, like, even though there is nothing confirmed, I do feel like it is highly likely that we are going to see those movies onto Disney Plus, despite the big names that are going to be attached. Mainly because, A, we are seeing Disney Plus really upping their standards in 2020, where they have gained more subscribers, and their content is becoming more and more stronger, where they were supposed to be released in theaters, but now they've pretty much laid out a new, like they pretty much set a new standard in what people would expect on Disney Plus. And number two, these kinds of movies in particular, when they are based on a Walt Disney classic, they don't necessarily make that much money, even if they would include, like, many big name celebrities. I mean, like, if freaking Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton wouldn't be enough to bring audiences to Dumbo, then it's hard to really know what could. So yeah, honestly, it's an interesting decision, but it really does stand, like, where we are right now with Disney Plus and the responsibilities that Disney would have to do in order to really pump up the content. Like, I'm sure, like, in the future, Disney Plus is still going to do extremely well, especially with the future ideas that they would have, whether it be with the miscellaneous Disney content, with all the Marvel content, especially with the Marvel content that they have in the future. I'm sure, like, the Marvel fans are really going to give Disney Plus a massive push to become even more successful than it is right now, and especially, like, even with the Star Wars content that they will have coming up, then at this point, I think things are going to go well, but Disney does have a big responsibility to try to maintain that success and to make sure that subscribers do stay as subscribers instead of just coming in just to visit to see one thing and then just go. So that's pretty much the big thing that we are seeing with Disney Plus. Okay, so now with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, what do you all think about this decision about moving many of the Disney live-action remakes to Disney Plus? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's something that could actually work? Are you still on the fence of getting Disney Plus if you don't have it yet? Let me know what you all think about all this. Okay, so let's see what we got here. I think that this is a pretty good idea. While they will try their best to make sure their bigger movies will be in theaters, this will not only allow Disney to still give their fans something to watch, but this will also allow Disney Plus a bit more exclusive content, since outside of The Mandalorian, Hamilton, Soul, and WandaVision, they don't really have much in terms of original content right now. Or you know what? I actually just had an idea. Like, this is just something that did pop in my head. You know, something that could actually be interesting, that could bring in a lot of people? I want to see them do an exclusive Simpsons content. If they could find a way to actually make some kind of exclusive Simpson thing, like some kind of, like, special that you could only find on Disney Plus, I'm sure... Ooh, excuse me. I'm sure that would actually be something that could actually turn, you know, that could be an idea that could really bring in a lot of people to be curious to see like what they could do, because it is actually very rare for The Simpsons to actually make a TV specials. And I mean, technically you could say like the Treehouse of Horrors would count as specials, but then again, they also count as TV episodes of The Simpsons. You know what I mean? Okay. Let's see. What else do we got here? What other comments do we have? I think it's for the best. Considering how Disney is losing money like crazy, Disney Plus is really the only way Disney can make money right now. And I do think the biggest issue with Disney Plus right now is that they lack exclusive content that's worth mentioning. Also, I am wondering if the reason they move these movies to Disney Plus is because they think the quality of their films will be as bad to similar as how they treated Artemis Fowl. Oh, that... You do bring up a very good point. That could be the case. Maybe it's just that they lost faith in they may have lost faith in these movies, and they just felt like, okay, yeah, we're not gonna put that on the big screen. We're just gonna move that to Disney Plus. Oh my god, I never considered that option, that this could be another case of just Artemis Fowl that is just so bad that they don't want to put it up on screen. You do bring up a good point. I mean, maybe not, but you know that should be an option we should not count out. I'm just saying. Let's see, what else do we have here? I pretty much live in oh, wait a minute. No, wait. That's from a different thing. It is an interesting move that Disney is doing with their streaming services. While I do wish that they would be in theaters, but I do understand considering we're still in a pandemic. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if more movies would go to streaming. Most notably to me is the Bob's Burgers movie, considering the lack of info of that film in the 3 years since they have announced it, and it's still stated for an April 2021 release. Oh yeah, I think that's gonna be, another major one. Like, I think honestly at this point, I think there's a strong chance right now that the Bob's Burgers movie is just gonna become a Disney Plus exclusive. Considering that, I think they have done well with the Phineas and Ferb movie that was exclusive on Disney Plus. You know, Candace versus the Universe. Like, I like, that did well for Disney, so I can imagine they could actually do the same thing for the Bob's Burgers movie, since it has been going on for a while, and I don't think Disney would really want to take the risk of putting that on the big screen, like considering that it's for sure they're not going to make the same numbers as, like, the Marvel movies or the animated movies, so that, like, it's for sure we're going to see that as an exclusive. Okay. Oh, and someone mentioned this Candace. Oh, it's Candace against the universe. Okay, I was close, but yeah, okay, I gotcha. Let's see what else we got here. I'm actually both hyped but mixed at the same time. At first, I thought that Cruella was gonna have the same story as Maleficent does, but when I heard that it's going to be a prequel to 101 Dalmatians, plus I already knew that Robert Zemeckis was going to reboot Pinocchio, I was thinking that Tom Hanks would play as Jiminy Cricket, and pretty mixed about that Peter Pan and Wendy movie, but let's just hope that they either come to Disney Plus or in theaters. Cross your fingers and let's just hope for it. Yeah, like, they have all... Yeah, honestly... Well, okay, I'm just gonna say right now, for the Cruella movie, yes and no. Like, technically, it is gonna be a prequel to 101 Dalmatians, but it's also gonna be a reboot where they're gonna make it an 80s punk movie. I know it sounds weird, but that seems to be the direction that they want to go with it. And also, for the Pinocchio movie, for Tom Hanks, well, I can definitely see him play as Jiminy Cricket. Reports have actually stated that it looks like he's gonna be playing as Geppetto instead. Which, that also makes sense, because, let's be honest, if you give Tom Hanks a white mustache, he definitely does look like Geppetto. Okay, anyways, I'll go and read one more comment before we end this off. Two words that pop into my mind when it comes to the 101 Dalmatians. Glenn Close, by the way, is she still around? Is she retired? I might need some info on that one. Sorry about the wrong comment, it slipped me up. Yeah, Glenn Close. No, of course Glenn Close is still acting. And, I think there was actually a moment where she did come back as Cruella de Vil. Like, I remember there was that little special where you have, Like, you guys remember on Halloween, there was that little comeback of the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus, like, where you have, like, Bette Midler and the gang coming back as, like, the Sanderson sisters. I think there was actually a moment where Glenn Close did actually return, and she did dress up as Cruella de Vil, like, in the 90s remake. I think that actually did happen. But anyways, with that said, I think that should conclude it for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And let me just say, it feels great to be back, and I'm happy to see that everything is working out well with my computer, with my podcast, and especially with you guys. So tune in next week for more crazy news to come, and for me to go and talk about an AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes.